Alright, welcome back everyone. We are here doing another TSTerra interview.
Okay.
I have Tera Solo Gamer in the booth with me. If y'all don't know who this is, I will post a link to their YouTube channel. They also do videos, a lot of good informational videos, especially for new and even advanced players that maybe have missed some of the general game basics, and they cover all the events and patch notes as well. So definitely go give him a look at. And yeah. So Solo, what is your main character's name on the server that people might see you? Alright. Cool. So what patch did you start playing
This is
Tera?
my main character on my main gamer tag, angelic.brawler. I actually had seen Tera coming out to console before it came to console, and I actually had purchased a couple of those founder packs before it even started. So I've actually been playing Tera on console since it first came to console. I had never heard of it before it came to console because I'm not a PC player. I used to be a PC player back before consoles existed, but that's been a little while. So yeah, I've been playing
Okay,
it since it
very
first came to
cool. So you're like
consoles
an
here
OG.
when they
You got
first
some
introduced the
fire
Halo
halos
class and the
stashed
Gunner
away.
class and the Valkyrie class.
Very
Those were all
nice.
fun little events to do.
Cool. So now, what would you say is your main class?
Yeah, on the console, yeah, I guess I'm considered OG. Now it's Brawler because my first character I ever created, I thought it'd be cool to have a Berserker. So I created a Berserker. And then after that, I had done some other things. And then, of course, when each of the new classes came out, I did them and leveled them up quickly so I could get the special titles and all that sort of thing. I have a quick ninja who got her title, or 65, in less than 24 hours. And then the Valkyrie, you only needed 30 days to get her to 65. So I actually have several with the Chooser of the Slain title. And I had tried a bunch of things, but then at one point, I was like, Tera had come out with a special leveling event for tanks because so many people were complaining about the dungeons. They weren't getting enough tanks queuing up. So I was like, whatever. It's a level event. I got a little extra free stuff. Let me try it. And when I started playing the brawler, I was like, man, I love this thing. It was so much fun for me as a solo player. I do all open world stuff, like world bands, do all that kind of thing. I don't do the multiplayer dungeons. So like you were talking about my channel, most of my stuff's for beginners and all that, or people who've been around for a while but haven't done certain things. But I never cover multiplayer dungeons because I just don't do them. But for a solo player like me, with her blocking
Face
ability
tank
and all that
everything.
other stuff, it's just perfect for a solo gunner because I don't have to do all that jumping and dodging and whatever. I just stand there, block hit, block hit.
Nice, very
So
nice. Well,
actually,
that makes
all of
sense.
my all of
Um,
my 5 gamer
for
tags, I
Brawler
just
now,
made
is
the
there
brawler my
something
main
that
placement,
you might
just
miss about
because
the
that's the
class
easiest for me
that
to
used to
play.
be in the game, or something you wish they'd add for Brawler?
I had never really thought much about that. And to be honest,
Mm.
I'm so much happier with Brawler than any other classes. I can't think of anything where it's like, yeah, it'd be nice if they could add that or whatever. Because I'm a basic video game player. My style, and I've mentioned this in some of my videos. My style in any video game is run up to the monster and start hitting it. It'll hit me back. We hit each other back and forth until one of us dies, and I just cross my fingers and hope I'm not the one who dies. So
Fair
a lot of
enough.
that
Fair
advanced
enough.
stuff that people do, where it's like do this thing and that thing and
Nice.
combine this
So,
with that and do
you've
the. I'm
mentioned
like,
that you're a
I don't
solo
know what you're
player
talking about. Just
and
hit
that you
stuff.
kind of just go around doing fishing, crafting, gathering. You'll fight BAMs. I'm curious. Have you ever really done much PvE or even PvP stuff?
Well,
Okay.
never had. Well, everything I do is just PvE. I don't do any PvP. I've never had any interest in that in any game. Typically, with my career and everything else, I'm usually like so busy, so stressed out. When I play games, I'm normally just trying to relax and just have fun. So actually, my biggest things are the fishing and the gathering and the crafting and the chanting and all that. Those are the things I love to do. Um, and of course I go do the daily Vanguard things and all that other stuff, which is mostly fighting BAMs and whatever. But
Oh wow.
um, yeah, I'm not. I definitely don't worry about PvP or any of that kind of thing because yeah, I'm actually a retired Army Master Sergeant, and now I work as a civilian for Headquarters Department of the Army in the DC area. And for
Nah,
me to
that's
be
fair.
like,
I got
"Oh,
that. My
what
dad
am
was
I,
in the
did your
army, so
character
much
do
much
your
respect.
pixelated
Thank you, thank
thing? I'm
you.
so tough." Or I'm
Um,
like, "Nah, I don't care," you know. Like,
yeah, man. Yeah, he actually
oh,
went out and did 3 tours in
thank you to your
Iraq, and
father for,
he started working on
paving
like
the
the
way for those of
robotics
us who
stuff too, and
were
helping them
servers.
build the robots, and it's very cool. Yeah, he loved it a lot. So yeah.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, yeah, that kind of support stuff is extremely important to the Army. Continuing with the AI
Yeah.
type stuff and the robotics type stuff, definitely what we call a combat multiplier, because it helps to save lives and stuff. That's amazing. That's great. I actually originally started out in the infantry. Later, I became a medic, then an X-ray technologist,
Oh,
then an ordnance specialist.
wow, very
Then I went
nice,
into
very
human
nice. Yeah, so I can
resources.
see
My
how
last
like
few years actually worked force
the
management, and
whole
now for Headquarters Department of the Army, I
competitive
work
side
force
of the
management
game
as
being,
a civilian.
that's fair. You got bigger things to do. Yeah. Nah.
Yeah, it's like, okay, it's a video game. Whoopee! My picture person defeated
Yeah.
your picture person. Woo! It's, and like I said, anyway, I'm just trying to relax and enjoy myself and let my mind sort of breathe a little by the time I'm done
Yeah.
with work for the
No,
day.
that's
So
fair.
I
That's
don't really
fair.
want to be stressing myself
Totally
out trying to
respect.
be all
Um,
competitive and
all right,
whatever.
cool.
I'm
So
just
that
like,
kind of leads
I just want to
into
gather,
my
craft,
next question
fish,
with being a solo player, and I know we've touched on it, but what are some of the things that you do? Like, what do you really enjoy doing on the game? Because I don't like. I think a lot of people that view the game, and we were talking about this earlier before we started, that so many people do just dungeons. It's always dungeons. I don't know how many people actually look out and see what other things the game has to offer.
Yeah, see, and for me, and I've actually made several videos showing how to do a lot of these things for newer players who may be interested in some of that stuff. I love going out and gathering stuff. That's just a calm, relaxing thing to do. And then I like using that and doing all the crafting things. Matter of fact, one of the things I normally recommend to people is if you can, make 5 characters. And your first one, go ahead and, work on whatever you want to work on. But for each of the five, make each of them a master in each separate craft. I have masters in every craft on my gamer tag. So anything that comes up that I need to craft for a special thing or whatever, it doesn't matter what it is, I can craft it because I have master levels for every craft that's out there. And fishing, that's another calm, relaxing thing to do. Matter of fact, I've gotten one of my rods to level 8, which is the max. My other rod is only level 7, so I've been working on the fishing tournament thing to get more of the angler tokens because I eventually want to get. I think I still need like 20 some thousand to get it to level 8, but I'm still working on that. So those kind of long cumulative things are kind of fun for me too because it's a goal. It's going to take a while, but it's something I can work on a little bit at a time. I do hunt the world BAMs, or I used to. Ever since they changed the enchanting thing and the enchanting materials they were dropping didn't matter as much. I haven't really hunted them for the past couple of months. But I used to for the crafting, or materials, and I did read recently where they were going to get rid of all the basically useless drops that they did have, but I haven't gone out and tested that recently. And of course, a lot of times I'll do the daily vanguards. Even that, that's fighting a lot of BAMs or whatever, but still, you get the rewards for it and stuff. And what else out there? All that kind of
Nice.
stuff.
Yeah, no,
Enchanting
that's
up
fair. That
gear and
makes
all that
sense,
sort of
you know.
thing. Those things I
I
like
think
to
the
do
advice on
because
like
they're,
starting 5
just
characters, if someone
relaxing and
can,
calming mostly.
is really good. Because I know when I started, I always struggled on getting golden plates, silver plates to enchant my gear. And it's just because I never took the time to level that stuff up. I was like, man, I gotta sit here and buy them on the trade broker, and that just gets, eats up so much gold, especially now at how much they cost. So, very nice, very nice. Yeah. Yeah, the storm
Oh
crab.
yeah, especially since the economy recently took that huge upturn or whatever when there was that abuse of the gear they were giving away. But yeah, I agree with you. Being able to craft at mastered level for all 5 crafts,
Yeah.
it ends up being a lot cheaper, especially since we get so many items through. Like if you happen to have elite, and you get the daily elite gift boxes, but also a lot of the drops that we get from some of the things in the game, where you'll get certain levels, silver talents or whatever, and then you can just enchant those up
Yeah,
yourself to
no,
be silver plate or
100%.
whatever, and it's
Cool.
usually going to be a little
So, what
cheaper
are your
than
thoughts on someone
having to
starting
go
the
in the
game
trade
now
broker and buy them, especially right now with the
compared to
economy
like
being the way it is in the game. I the biggest thing I recommend if you've never played Terra and you want to try it out, first off, it's totally free to play. You don't have to pay anything for the game. It's a full version game. You're not getting one of those cut down versions and then later you have to pay money to get to level 65 or do whatever. It's all free. There are things you can buy through the Terra store that will help you in some cases with certain things being a little quicker or a little easier, but you really don't need any of it. You can get to level 65 completely on your own, totally free, and then you can get gear and stuff totally free. Just got to grind for some of it. But if you've never played before, I strongly recommend you just start at the beginning and go ahead and do all the red mainline quests. Do as many of the yellow sideline quests as you can, and just explore all the different areas. Learn the game as you're leveling up and you're doing certain low level dungeons and stuff. It'll give you little tips or whatever. And when you get to 20 something, I think it is, and you start first being able to apply glyphs, it'll give you tips on how the glyphs work and how to apply them. So it's a lot easier for you later when you get to end game if you have gone through that whole process. Plus, it's just a beautiful world, a lot of stuff to explore. I probably spent at least 3 or 4 weeks the first character I put through here, maybe longer, doing all of that, all the quests and stuff, before I got all the way up to level 65.
wow.
And now I can speed level a character to level 65 in like I think the video I did for it, I got her to level 65 in 15 hours. No scrolls, none of that. Um, there are ways to speed level, but I don't recommend that, and I don't recommend a scroll if you've never played before, because if you do a scroll for level 65. Okay, great. You're level 65. You've got your lowest level of in-game gear, and you have no clue how to fight, how the glitches work, none of that. So, I recommend exploring everything as much as possible. Matter of fact, this particular character here, um, the only quest she has not done, she's done every red level and every yellow level quest, but there's that one quest. I have to look at my quest list.
Yeah, fair enough.
Grotto of Lost Souls.
Yeah,
It's a
no, that's
multiplayer
good.
dungeon.
That's
It's the
great.
one and only quest, red or yellow, she has
That's
not done
something
it
even
yet.
now that I'm
She's
like,
done every other quest though.
for most of my characters anymore, I don't do any of the quest line, and I think a lot of people forget. A lot of us players that have been playing for a long time forget that the story quest is really powerful, and it does show you most of the world. And you mentioned something that I'm rediscovering in a way by trying to make my thumbnails, is that how pretty this game actually is. Like, there are so many unique areas to this game, and it's just like, man, if you don't take the time to explore the world, miss out on so much, and it's like, dang, this game actually is like very, very pretty. um,
Oh, I'll tell you, one of my favorite places to go and just hang
yes,
out
sir.
used to be and
All the
run around,
colors,
just
so
enjoy the
pretty.
beauty, was
Um,
Tera in Sylvaneth.
yeah.
That's to me one of the
All
most
right.
beautiful regions
So,
in the whole game.
what is something from the game that's gone, like an event that doesn't come back anymore that you wish came back, or maybe something from the past that you missed that wish, would think maybe it would be cool that devs consider bringing that back in?
But I used to really. Well, I'll tell you, as a solo player, they don't take much from us, but I used to really enjoy Celestial Arena, and they took it away. But that was a fun one, especially when I would level up new characters. It was a new class for me because that was actually a good place for me to go in and just fight and fight and fight for a while and just play around with like my glyphs and my gear enchants and my accessories to try to figure out, okay, what actually works best for me against regular monsters and mobs and stuff. Because you have Island of Dawn to do that kind of testing for BAMs, but the Celestial Arena was great for that kind of testing. Plus, it was just a nice, easy little daily Vanguard to do. That is probably the biggest thing that bummed me out that they took away. That was strictly a solo type thing. It's like, well, why take it away? I mean, at least with the dungeons for multiplayers, when they take them away, they usually bring back other ones. They rotate those. But when they took Celestial Arena away, it was just gone. You know. And there was also Castle Veronea. That was a fun little thing. And of course, you could get, I think it was like 3 or 4 in-game feats for doing that, and they took that away as well. I don't know why they're taking solo player content. I don't think either of those things could have taken
Okay.
up too much
Very,
system
yeah.
resources.
Yeah, I
But
remember
yeah, I
doing
would say
Arena, but I didn't
Celestial
do it
Arena
too
definitely the
much.
biggest
But
bummer for me that it's gone.
that would be
And
cool
next
if they
after that would
brought it
be
back.
Castle
Especially,
Veronea.
that's something like anyone could go and do. And now with the Vanguard changes, giving out the Federation coins and stuff, that's something that they could add for that too, for anyone who just hit 65, that maybe, they don't know too many people just yet and they're looking to do content. I think having that solo player content does add value. And that's actually something honestly, I'm going to be real, I completely forgot Celestial Arena was even in console because, as you get towards the end, you kind of like, okay, this gives what, like, 2 sapphires maybe, but if they, upped its rewards too to match the current game status, where like everything's giving thousands of gold, everything's dropping diamonds, that would be really cool if they brought Celestial Arena back, and it could really help new players as well. I think if it gave, maybe that gave 2 Federation coins, and maybe it gave a diamond, that would actually be, something really nice that did come back. So hopefully, maybe the devs will add it. Um, what's something you want to see in the future? Yeah.
Oh, that's something I hadn't thought much about either. But
Mhm.
personally, of course, would like more solo content. If they could come up with another solo dungeon or something, I mean, Pit of Patrax was pretty nice. That's not bad. It's pretty quick and easy. Get because actually a lot of those vanguards I do, I'm not really doing them for the drop for the individual vanguard itself. Now Island of Dawn's different, especially now that they have those face etching things. Because now like her, she just before we started this, she just finished her 16 vanguards for the day. Got some more of those feathers from the high level Island of Dawn bands. Later today, I'll probably go to my next character on this gamer tag and do a bunch of the mid levels and get those rewards. And then, because I've made a few of those face etching things or whatever,
Mm.
and So for this one, I do the individual
Yeah.
ones, but most of the others I actually do them for like the daily reward and the weekly rewards. You know, especially since now they have that
Mhm.
the Valkyon Federation coin or whatever it's called. Yeah, you get a few if you do 8, and then a
Yeah, you
few
get
if
the
you do
Caius Brooch
16, and
through
then for
that.
the weekly you get a few. So it's probably gonna take me a few months, but I'm gonna keep saving those up and trade them in for I think it's a brooch or something. Yeah, cause
Mm.
yeah.
Um,
Yeah, because since I don't do
you
multiplayer
could. Do you do
dungeons,
your
that's really the
Guardian
only way
Legion
I'm gonna get
missions?
it is by doing the dailies and weeklies for the vanguards. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do those. I
Yeah,
normally
so I
only
was
do
gonna
like one a
suggest,
day as
if
part of
you
the
actually
vanguards,
go to the,
and I get the
do you
legendary
know,
weapons
like, the
already because
token
she already
shop
has
or
a
the
tier
Guardian
five
Legion
level
shop
five
in
power
Bellica?
mask.
You can actually get a crate from the highest tier 1 for 800 that has a chance of giving you the Federation coin, actually.
Yeah. I see. I had to check that out because
Yeah, they,
I've only been there like once or
hmm,
twice. Like when you first do that one
they,
mission that opens them up, so you're able to. But I've never really shopped there much for anything because
it is. They updated it recently, so
yeah, I
they
was just
took
gonna
out
say because
most of
most of the
the like
stuff that I saw, it
material.
seems
Because
like it's
again,
stuff that
we
drops other places anyway.
there's
But
no
yeah, I'll have to
reason
go
to
check that out
have
just see how that works.
Guardian, Twist Shard, Frost Metal, like mats in the game. Even Stormcry mats are basically gone. They updated that shop to where they took all that out and they put in this chest that gives you gems, plates, one other item that's slipping my mind, and the Federation coin. So I think I opened up like 10 or 20 of the boxes and got like 3-4 extra coins. It's not a lot, but I mean, hey, an extra coin here, an extra coin there, it's one step closer, right? So, mhm. Yeah, definitely check it out. So now
Oh
I
yeah,
guess
definitely every little bit
if
counts.
you could
I
change
have
one
to check
thing
it out
about
because
the
I haven't
game,
been to that shop in quite
what
some
would it be?
time. Change something.
No, you're good.
So you got me stumped because these are things I've never really thought much about. I just run in and play and have fun with what I have. I hadn't really thought about, okay, what can I change? I don't know. Uh, um,
Mm,
yeah, like I said, I mean, I would just want a little bit more solo content as far as a few more solo dungeons or whatever, things like that. But as far as change, I mean, I do have it so much. Well, one thing I kind of like to see, just because I've seen videos of it online, is apparently when
yes.
this was on PC before it ever came to console, Island of Dawn was apparently a beautiful green lush area. It'd be kind of nice to see that kind of scenery here. But I
Nah,
wouldn't want
yeah,
to give
that's
up
fair.
the BAMs, either the
Yeah, I don't
Island of
know if
Dawn BAMs, as
console
far as the
ever
solo
had
player
it,
goes.
but
That's always
yes, I
been
remember
some
seeing
of the best
images
solo
of
content and
Island
Vanguard
of
stuff.
Dawn pre-war, I think it was, because there was a war that, like, the lore is there was a war that outbroke and like it got torn apart, and yeah, it was very very pretty. That would be neat if there was a way to toggle which version and it didn't affect, obviously didn't affect the BAMs and like that content. That would be pretty. Um, but yeah. Now I'm curious, do you as solo content, do you ever do RG like Ravenous Gorge by yourself?
There have been a couple of dungeons. I forget the name. There's one that I've soloed a few times, but the thing is, as a solo player, it takes me so long. By the time I'm done, I'm exhausted. 30, 45 minutes of fighting. I'm like, oh God, that's enough. Um, The one I'm
Yeah.
thinking of that I've done
Yeah,
several
that's Raven.
times. There's
Yeah,
like a
that's
big ape
Ravenous
jumping
Gorge.
around when you first go in, and then at their end, there's like this flaming bird
So would you
thing or
say you
something.
would want more solo
Long,
dungeons like
is that
that,
Ravenous
or would you
Gorge?
want more solo dungeons
Okay.
that would be like
Yeah, that's what
go
I'm looking at.
in one boss, you know? Maybe you would take yeah.
Something like Ravenous Gorge would be fine if it didn't take me nearly an hour to defeat. You know, if it were actually designed for
Yeah.
solo
No, that's
players, you know, so it wouldn't
understandable.
take that long. You know,
Especially, I
because
mean,
like I said, by the
Ravenous
time I'm done with
Gorge,
that, I'm
it's
exhausted because I'm
technically
not
meant to
normally
be
looking
3
for long
people,
fights when I'm
so
playing a video
I can,
game. You know.
yeah, I can see, especially depending which class you play. Obviously, like a brawler's gonna potentially not do as much as a DPS necessarily would, even though they hit, yes, hard, but you know, with the brawler, you don't have to worry about as many mechs. You can just face tank things with the block. But again, if a priest or a mystic tried to go in there and soloed it, it would take them even longer because their damage is just. So, yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah. And that's actually another thing I've done is I do have every class on this gamer tag, and another gamer tag I have one of every class, and the other three I have most classes on them, not every one and all of them. But that was another thing they had done a special leveling event for was the healers. Again, I think they did it after the tanks because there were so many people complaining about not enough healers queuing up for the multiplayer dungeons. So I ended up making a priest and
Sadly not.
a mystic and doing them. But yeah, you're right. They don't do too much
Yeah,
damage at
no,
all.
for sure, for sure. But yeah, that would be
But they do
an
enough
interesting
to
thing
do
to see
solo
the game
work. I can
get.
still
Is
bring them to the Island of Dawn
you
and
know,
defeat
maybe
them and
almost
all
a
that.
series even of solo content dungeons. I've always yeah.
Oh yeah, that'd be nice, especially if we could get some that are kind of challenging, take a little while, but not nearly an hour or whatever. But to where we could get like Abyssal gear and whatever, accessories or whatever. Because I don't have that. I have the ethereal. Because as far as I know, to get the Abyssal accessories, you got to do dungeons, and I don't do them. So now she is eye level 474. She's still only +6 on her Kaya body armor, and actually, it was yesterday. I think I finally got her foot armor up to +8. It was at +6, and at +6, she was 473. So she just bumped up to 474 like a day or two ago. So I can still get pretty
Yeah.
high levels. Even without doing dungeons. But if I could get like Abyssal on my own by doing special solo
Yeah,
dungeons that were
no,
set up
for
for
sure,
solo
that would be
players,
definitely an
that could
interesting
be just as
concept.
challenging for us alone as it
I
would
was
be
actually
for,
wondering,
a
like, I
group of
thought of a
5
method
working
that
together.
I don't know if they could ever implement it, but a lot of people seem to struggle, I notice, with getting to 65, right? And it's some people, they just don't, if they try to queue for, was it Bastion of Lock, trying to get a group, if they want to do the dungeon route. I was like, what if they change it? Of course, still keep the storyline, but what if they made a series of like 5 dungeons that you can go in by yourself, and they could heck even extend that into 65 content, then that it's like a dungeon that kind of teaches you your class a little, forces you to like understand your skills, and you could break a crystal, kind of like the bird in RG, where like if you break the one crystal, it'll give you a healer. If you break the other crystal, it'll give you a DPS or tank. And set up a series of dungeons for people who are playing solo, that they might fight like 1 or 2 bosses. They could break whatever crystal they need, to get a class, like support classes, to help them out to clear the dungeon. Or if you're a support, get the DPS to help you clear it. And that would actually be a really cool concept if like they developed, a tricky dungeon that, right now I think good groups are killing AAHM within each boss within 2 minutes. Maybe make it so that the solo dungeon You know, each boss takes, I don't know, 3 to 5 minutes for just the solo player. And yeah, if it had some pretty interesting, they could make some interesting mechs in there that, you know, and then it could drop, you know, abyssal gear, and that would actually be a really cool concept. So.
And see, it's funny you mentioned those dungeons because when you're talking about Bastion of Loke and all that, for the first few years, those were like multiplayer dungeons. Although you could go in them and solo them, which is what I always did on all my characters. I would actually solo the leveling dungeons. Now take for example the one. Oh God, what can I think of the name?
Sabex Armory or
It's technically
Catacombs?
level 60 to 65. It's
Sabex.
in that open area just before you get to High Watch. A lot, there you go, Sabex Armory. That's it. Um, I would always solo that one, but it's technically level 60 to 65. So I'd
Yeah.
always wait till I was level 62 with full 62 gear and stuff, then go in there because less than level 60 gear was just too hard to solo. But what they actually did not too long ago, I think it was in the past year or so, all those leveling dungeons like Bastion and Loke and all that, they have changed to solo dungeons. So now they're solo. So it's actually they're even easier to solo than they were back when they were multiplayer, and I was soloing them anyway. You know, so now I can tear through them pretty quickly and easily. Now, like Sabex, I think is still multiplayer, but those lower level leveling up dungeons that you do as part of your quests, those are actually all solo now.
Now does because they've changed them a lot if I recall. Is the solo variant
keep moving, you know, keep
qualified for clearing the quests, or do you have to do the instance matchmaking one or the multiplayer one to clear the quest line out? Mm-hmm.
But see, for a little while, they had it where you could choose solo or multiplayer. And when I was playing around with that with some new characters, when I went and did it solo, it didn't count. But then when I went into multiplayer mode, even though I did it solo, in multiplayer mode, then it counted. But I believe they fixed that.
Okay.
I thought
well, hopefully they fixed
where it'll count either way. I think you can solo it now and count. I can't swear to it, but I'm pretty sure I read they fixed that.
Yeah, I'd be curious because that's one thing I always like.
I may
when I even did my leveling guide, I found
at least running through
the hardest part being you would either have to solo the 5-man version, because at the time I did it, I think it was 5-man variant. I was like, I think the first half I did was, then it swapped to 3, and I was like, oh god, this is so much easier. But still, yeah, having to like wait for 2 other people in your same item level, you know, queue and go in is just, you know, it's a tedious process.
And what was funny was I would actually solo them with all the classes and all my new characters back then. But so many people were afraid to even try that. And I remember, like, at least one time I was getting ready to go in to one of the dungeons, and someone was just sitting there outside the thing, the entrance. And I like was like, "Hey, you want to help?" You know, like, yeah. So we like did the little team thing or whatever. And I was like, "Okay, let's go." And she's like, "What?" I was like, "Yeah, let's go." And she's like, "You're crazy." I was like, "Come on, it's easy. Come on." And she refused to go in. So I ended up, I wasn't going to wait. So I went in and just did it solo. I was like, whatever. It's like, because I'm thinking, my God, I solo this all the time. There's going to be 2 of us. We're going to slaughter this thing, but she's afraid to even go in there because.
Yeah, well, that's the sad thing too, is that, like, that beginning leveling gets very tricky, and depending on what class you play, it just depends. Like, a healer trying to do all that stuff, I feel bad for them. But, like, a brawler that's getting face tank everything, God, that's why I did brawler for mine, because I was like, man, I don't have to do shit. I can just sit here and block.
Oh, yeah. Yep. That's why I love Brawler as a solo player. I love Brawler. You know, now it's funny when you're talking about the healers, because actually on my YouTube channel, I've had some people ask me about, hey, can you do a class setup thing for, and I'm like, no, I'm not doing that
Yeah.
because I am a solo player. One, I don't really know if I'm optimized or not. Don't really care. I just know it works for me, you know, in my play style for each of my classes. But the other thing I explain to people is the majority of my characters are set up the exact opposite of how most people want theirs set up because they're going to go do multiplayer dungeons. So for their DPSs and their healers, you know, they're going to be focusing their enchants and their whatevers on uh, maximizing damage from the back. Whereas all my characters are focused on maximizing damage from the front because as a solo player, aggro is always on me. Doesn't matter if it's a healer, a DPS, or what. I'm the only one there. So the monster's always facing me. Even if I try to get behind it, it's going to spin around and I'm facing it, you know. And my healers, I wouldn't know how to heal someone, you know, to save my life because my healers are all set up like a DPS. All of their glyphs and everything are for damage, not for healing, you know. So that's one of the big differences between being a solo player and a someone who does the multiplayer dungeons is my setups all have to be different. You know, the tank is probably, you know, both my tanks, Lancers and Brawlers, they're probably set up about the way they would be for multiplayer. But DPSs and healers, I have a completely different setup that works for me. Definitely would not work for anyone trying to go in and help out a multiplayer dungeon because
Yeah,
you know
no,
it's
definitely.
basically all the
It
opposite where I'm
has, you know,
forward facing all the time.
completely
But a
different. Not
DPS or healer in
completely
a dungeon
different.
is
You
going to be
still want
behind it and all that sort of
most the
thing, you
same
know.
roles, but yeah, like if you're playing, you know, a DPS, you do not want most aggro role. Like now, again, if you're a solo player, if you're doing like you said, then yeah, like that role is actually higher. You are going to output more DPS if you're attacking the boss from the front. The other thing that majorly changes with that, especially, and probably don't run across it or wouldn't run across it until you get into like 460 plus dungeons. But believe it or not, some people don't realize this. When you attack the boss from the front, you actually technically have to build more crit. So if you're a Sork trying to, like, I don't know, do silly stuff and trying to, you know, play Sork tank, you actually would need to build more crit because the front of the boss has a higher crit resistance. And, yeah, so that, you know, your crit builds even necessarily maybe when you get towards the, you know, more end of the game, you might have to build more crit for doing some of your solo stuff. Just because of, you know, what crit and what doesn't is going to change from front versus back. And yeah, no, I that's actually really good that you stick to your guns on that because the play style is completely different. Even the set of crystals you would use in your weapon as a front DPS is completely different than a back DPS because why are you going to use, you know, do more damage or crit power from behind the boss when you're not behind the boss?
Exactly. Exactly, and that's the way mine are set up, even for my healers. Because, like you said, even like the rings or whatever, I forget what all the options are, but each of mine, uh, I use both options for increasing crit power. You know, and like I said, my glyphs and everything else, they're set up to either increase damage, increase power, increase
Yeah.
crit, increase whatever. Um, but like my
Yeah.
healers,
Well, seeing
especially.
that's
I
that's
don't have a
the
single
exact
glyph
difference
that has
between a
anything to do with healing
DPS priest
because they don't have
and
to heal
a,
anyone,
you know, support priest.
except
And a lot of
themselves.
people, I think, when
That's
I did
it.
my original healer guide, I had someone arguing with me on my channel. Healers don't have to do damage, blah 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 blah. That's silly. Never roll DPS rolls on a healer ever. And I'm like, my guy, if you want the best time in the hardest dungeon, like, you want your priest hitting the hardest tornado because that could make the difference of 1 second. Like, you know, yeah, it's not a crazy amount of DPS difference, But still, yeah, if it comes down to it, whatever group hits the highest DPS per second, and, you know, your group, technically in speedruns, you don't get hit anyway. There shouldn't necessarily be much healing in sense if you're slaying and doing stuff. Yeah, you want your pre-setup completely different, and it's the same logic with doing what you're doing. Like, you don't have a teammate to heal. Why do you care if your healing immersion resets or does more healing? Like, you don't need to use that skill. No.
Exactly. So I use all that for damage, crit,
Yeah.
you know, all that.
No, for sure.
Like I said, my healers are basically set up
All right.
like DPS,
Well,
and
we've
are
went
the
through
healer,
all
because
of the questions that
have anyone to
I
heal
could come
me.
up with. Do you want to add anything?
I didn't have anything in particular to add, but when you were talking about speed runs and all that, that did remind me of one thing that used to be in the game that was sometimes kind of fun. It's not one of those things where I'd like really like to see it come back or whatever, but I did happen to think of it when you're saying that, and it was kind of weird. We used to have those things where we would have huge BAMs out in an open field area, and certain times of the day they would appear, and there'd be these massive groups of people coming and just beating.
Are you referring to Rally?
Like the highest, you know, level.
Yeah, we still have Rally BAM. It's just it doesn't spawn for us until 11 p.m. to 2 a.m. I think.
Rallies.
Yeah, it's still a thing. It's just it spawns super late at night.
Oh, good lord! No wonder I didn't know about it. I'm in bed by then because I got work.
Nope. Now, if you're talking about like the bosses spawning around the area, and you would hit it and get goodies that dropped out of it, kind of like, do you remember the crab event? Oh no. There's the open world boss event that people really loved, where you would see bosses spawn out in the world. And then there's the crab event, where crabs would spawn out near, it's where the summer event usually is held, that same spot. And people would go up and, like, basic attack the crabs, and you would get, you know, bravery. Sometimes they drop, like, silver siglos or something. 2 events like that. But,
the Santa event, I make sure I do every year and get all kind of stuff from that.
Yeah, the crab one was ran by NMOS. Back when NMOS was in control of the game, not Bluehole. They did the crab event. Oh, it's been like 3 years. No? Huh. Yeah. But, alright, well, if that's it. Thank you again. This was fun. Really interesting to see another side and version of Tera. So yeah, if you don't have anything else, I think that resolves all my questions, and yeah, that's it. Of course, super fun. Alright, so that's gonna be it. Thank you everyone for watching. Again, in the description of the video is going to be a link to Tera Solo Gamer's channel. Definitely go check him out. Check out his stuff. Really amazing stuff. And yeah, that's about it. Hope to see you all in Arboria. Alright, and now that we're at the end of the video, I want to thank you all for making it this far. I hope you've enjoyed. I also want to give a huge shout out and thank you to Tera Solo Gamer. There will be a link to his channel in the description of this video, so I highly recommend you go check that out. And as always, if you liked the video, go ahead and hit the like. If you haven't subscribed, please do so. As always, I hope to see you in Arboria, gamers.